Hello again guys, I have an interesting video for you today. This is the Tylt Energi desktop charging station. I've actually reviewed quite a few different desktop charging stations, different brands, different companies for a while now, so I have a pretty good baseline for comparison. There's one thing that really makes this unique and really makes it stand out in my opinion. It is a 5-port charging station. It doesn't have Qualcomm Quick Charge built in. It's 2.4 amp max ports, but you may be able to see it here on the front of the box. One of the ports actually pulls out. One of the ports is a removable 3200 milliamp hour battery pack that charges when you plug it back into the charging station. Very, very cool stuff. Now that's a really interesting thing to see. I opened this up and looked inside. There's actually a little section here for more information. About the little battery pack, it mentions 1 amp USB port. So apparently this little charger here is 1 amp when you pull it out of the main unit. I will of course have to test all of this out, but let's go ahead and break into the package. So inside the box you're going to find a user manual, some customer satisfaction information, warranty information, more warranty information, and apparently this does come with a 1-year warranty which you can extend by registering it on their website to a total of 2 years. And then the main meat and potatoes of the package as it were, you have your power cable, which appears to be about 1 meter, 3.3 feet long, and then the desktop charging station itself. Here's your 5 ports, one of which is actually removable battery. You just hit the button and it pops out like that. You see it kind of pops up. Do that again from the side. Just pops out, just like that. And there is a little bit of springiness to it. I don't know if you can really see it at that angle, but when I went to pop it up, it kind of bounces like that. Now you are going to have it looking like this, you know, sitting flat on the desk like that, so it's not going to be bouncing or anything, but it does have a little springiness to it. And there's actually area all around built into it so that you should be able to route your USB cables around to sort of make it look a little bit neater, a little bit nicer. And rubber pads on the bottom to keep it from slipping around on the desk. Very, very nice. On the back you have your power connector, so you just plug your cable in there and you're good to go. And really, other than all the input-output information, FCC certifications, things like that, the only thing you can find on this device is just a little bit of branding right here on the side. And on the other side it says Tylt, which you would expect. But it's got a very nice rubberized plastic feel on the outside, nice and kind of grippy. I could assume if you put a device down on top of it, you're not going to have it go sliding off. And I think the only thing left to do is just plug in devices, plug in the whole thing, give it a quick test and see how it works. And right as I plugged it in, you can see here the battery is actually charging. It has 3 out of 4 lights turned on, which means that it is not fully charged yet, but that is good. It lets you know that it's working. It lets you know how much battery life is left in it. If we go ahead and pop it out, that light turns off. I actually hadn't taken a look at this battery quite yet, but it's just sort of that regular pocketable lipstick style, I think they call it, battery. You have a micro USB port on top and a full-size USB port to do all the charging, and it should only fit down in there one way, so you're not going to be able to put it back in wrong and have it not charge. It has a slot in one side for that reason. So there you go. It goes back in very easily and starts charging again. Alright, a little while later, as you can see, it has been plugged in, it has been charging. The little lights on this are now solid, which means that the battery, the little external battery, is charged. And I do have some things plugged in here and charging. Finally, figured out a way around all of these, trying to figure out a device that will pull 2.4 amps, basically. Because the majority of the ones I've got really only want to pull about 1.5 to 2 amps max. But TronSmart sent me out this really interesting little USB tester, and I'm able to plug in 2 relatively high amperage devices, and they'll both say, we're capable of this, gimme gimme. So I've got a high amperage tablet as well as a relatively high amperage phone plugged in, and as you can see it's doing 5 volts at 2.4 amps on this port. I do also have the second phone plugged in, it is charging that phone as well, but next port, right back to 2.4 amps, 2.4 amps again, and move things around a little bit, and again, 2.4 amps. And really the one I'm most curious about is this little battery, because for whatever reason it said 1 amp inside of the documentation, and it doesn't appear to be doing 2.4 amps, it's doing 2.1, but still, that's a whole lot better than 1 amp. And I'm actually curious to see what happens when I take this out, to see if it does the same amount of amperage when it's plugged in separately. Alright, I didn't have to push any buttons to get it to come on, and unfortunately it looks like the documentation may have been right. I guess it's sort of a good and a bad thing. So it looks like this little battery pack is unfortunately limited to 1 amp when it is outside of the charging station. Let's see what happens when we put it back in the charging station while everything's plugged in. It did stop for just a second there, but everything did pick right back up, and it immediately jumps back up to 1.7 for right now, and almost immediately goes back up to right at about 2 amps. So yeah, this port does appear to be limited to 2 amps when it's plugged in, 1 amp when it's unplugged, so don't expect to take it out and have 2.4 amp capacity all of a sudden. But all in all, not a bad little device. I'm liking the build quality, I'm liking the ports, I'm liking the fact that if my cables are too long, I can actually just route them around through here. It'll work a little bit better if you've got flatter cables, but that doesn't look too bad at all. As a little bit of an example, my USB Type-C cable here is kind of long if I wanted to have my phone right next to the charger. So what I can do is plug it in, route the cable through here, and back around underneath, and through. And in this case, the cable is long enough that it really doesn't make that much of a difference. It makes about a foot of difference. But for shorter cables, if you have like an 18-inch cable that you want to be about 6 inches, that would get the job done. Not really sure this trick will work on the other ones because this is a flat cable and it would sort of go through there if I didn't have this little tie on there. But a more standard cable, something like this one, yeah, that's not gonna fit through there. You'd still be able to fit it under here just like this, so it wouldn't be a problem, but you're not actually going to be able to feed it through these little holes like I kind of figured you could. So unfortunate, but not a big deal. So as far as my first impressions of the device, I like the build quality. I like how many ports it has. There is some part of me that wishes it would do Qualcomm Quick Charge 3, but that's a lot to ask. I really like this concept. I like the design, the fact that you can take this little battery out and take it with you when you're on the go. It means having one less thing to stick in a drawer and one thing that you can keep constantly charged, which is very, very nice. Now, as to the actual battery life of this, it is 3200 milliamp hours, so it should last about as long as your phone would last you, meaning at least one full charge back up on your device, depending on how much battery life you've got. If you've got something like a 1700 milliamp hour battery, you're going to get almost 2 full charges out of this, but it is limited to 1 amp when you're on the go. But anyway, thanks so much to Tylt for sending this out for me to take a look at. Thanks to you guys for watching. You can find these over on Tylt's website. They're $80 right now. They were about $35 for the very earliest backers on Indiegogo, but still really not that bad. If you consider these little lipstick battery charger things run in the neighborhood of about $20 to $30, and a good desktop charging station is going to run you about $40 to $50, $80 for a combination of the two is really not bad. But that is going to be about all for me for today. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to hit that thumbs up button below this video if you like this video, subscribe to receive all of my videos when they become available, and we'll see you again next time. If you trapped yourself between the two sides of the portal, and it is trippy and awesome. That's about as far as I'll go with it. I mean, it's just mind-blowing, kind of cool, the kind of stuff you wouldn't really have expected to have come out of